Funding for The Rotor Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. In the second of our special four-part series, The Jewelry and Lingerie Chest, master craftsmen Bob and Rick Rosendahl show you how to create sturdy dovetail drawers and reveal the secret to creating perfect combination joints for the case frame. On Part 2 of The Jewelry and Lingerie Chest, next, right here in The Rotor Workshop.
Welcome to the Rotor Workshop, and this is part 2 of the jewelry chest and lingerie chest. And Dad, what are you going to do today?
Well, we got 4 drawers in there, and we have a very neat way here of making them all the same, which is a little trick we're going to show.
Right.
But they are dovetailed together, and we've got the lineal dovetail, which means it runs right through.
Right.
You can see the construction. So I've got those to do, and I like the dust panels that we have inside of here.
So you're doing the drawers, and I'm going to do the casework.
That's exactly
Let's turn it around. Let's take a look at the casework here. We've got a list a little bit different this time. We're using raised panel system, but we're using just the stile in the rails and the cope and the bead cuts, and we're using 1/4-inch plywood this time. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up there. I got my table all ready to go, and we'll cut the copes and beads on the rails and stiles. Now let's get started here. What we have to do is go ahead and build the case first, and to do the case, put the case together, we're using cope and bead, and my first setup is the copes. I've already got it set up here. I've got the rail ready to go, so let's go ahead and cut all our copes. Now that we got all the copes cut, the next setup is the bead. So I'm just going to use this piece here to set up the bead. And it's on the top end of this cutter. We'll no longer need the rails piece there or the end piece. So we'll just drop down the cutter now so that it just matches the edge. And once I get it set up, I'll show it to you. So we're going to drop it down just a little bit more so it matches. And then we're going to check to see how close we are on it. Now just let me show you what I've got here. I'll unplug the tool so we can see. The cutter on the top here has to match the top of the piece here so that they fit. So let's just check it. Now all we have to do to check it is just touch the end of this. And we'll see here in just a minute how close we are. Plug it back in and let's check it. We need to drop that cutter down. If you look at this a little bit, actually this one has raised the cutter up because there's material on the top, just like this, so we need to raise it up just a little bit more. So let's unplug it one more time and raise that cutter up just a little bit. I found this is probably the most important part of the stage because if you don't get it right here, it doesn't get better as you cut more pieces. So let's go ahead and try it one more time, and then we'll start. There, now we're going to be all right. All right, let's pick the pieces that we're going to work with first here. And we're going to do the stiles. So we'll pick these two here, and we'll start cutting these, get them in organized. One thing about this, when you get a bunch of pieces, you have to have it all organized before you start. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut the stiles, or all the stiles and rails now with the bead. So we'll start off, and let's start it up and cut them. let's stop here and see how that panel's doing. Here I've got a plywood panel already set, so we're going to just go ahead and dry fit this and see if we're on the right track or not. There's the cope going into the bead, and we'll slide the panel in here. This is the side panel of the case, so it's looking pretty good. And now we need the top piece that's going in it. Tie that together. And there's what our side piece is going to do. It's going to look great. I'm going to go ahead and finish the cuts, and then we'll go see what Dad's doing with the drawers.
I'm going to have to chuck up a 1/2-inch dovetail bit because we're going to put lineal dovetails in. We're going to use the miter gauge, but we'll use the same dovetail bit we usually will do for that because it's a standard 14-degree 1/2-inch. So we'll chuck that up. And we also need to put in a 1-inch guide. Now that 1-inch guide, again, sticks above the table 1/4 inch, and it's 1 inch in diameter. So now, chuck that in here, and we need to get the guide. Got the guide in there like that. We need the ring nut to fasten on the back side. So we'll set that up and spin it on, and just finger tighten it down. I'll let you have a look what I did. We chucked the bit up. There it is. Now, pop it into place here, and we'll go to the miter gauge. Miter gauge slides simply by here. The bit comes up and is always centered across it, and we need to put them inside of here and lock them in. The only thing about it is checking the height of the bit. Now this time the height of the bit in here, if you're started off with a new one, just start a little bit less than 3/8 of an inch. And I'll put that in here so I can see, and then I'll let you have a peek at it. There's the 3/8 of an inch in it. And remember, if you want a tight or loose fit on it, the higher the bit, the tighter the fit. So that's how you get that. Now let's have a quick look here at the drawer front. We want to put a dovetail slot right through on each end, and that receives the side of the drawer. So we'll mark that inside of there just like that. What we're doing here is setting this up so that it's about 3/4 of an inch. And when I say that, that's what the overhang is on that, and then the side goes in. So if you took your drawer front, which was 3/4, we could lock that in here. And we need a little piece of tape, and I'm going to put a piece of tape there to give me a length. This will give us our size. We'll put some masking tape down here, and then I'll have a place to mark a mark. Polyethylene doesn't lend itself good for marking. And we'll rotate that bit right about like that, and I do have it unplugged. So we'll set that up like that, and right on the top here I'm going to put a mark in it. Now that's the mark that we'll go to, and what we're going to do is clamp it in. We're ready to go. Now you'll notice a little tear out on the back side, and sometimes you'll get it on both sides because of the rotation of the bit. I never worry much about it because I usually have the sides 1/8 of an inch wider, then I can joint them off after this operation. Now what we need to do is get our drawer sides matched to it. Well, don't change the height of the bit in here. I'd like to just clean that off a little bit. Now we'll get our fence over here. Got brass pins on the bottom side, fits into these holes. That's to hold the vertical pieces up here, and these are our drawer sides. Now, we need to take the fence on, it doesn't really matter in here, but we could pick a face side, and as I do that, I'll just put an X on it, and you'll notice that when I do these, cut these pieces, I'll always have the face side against the fence. I'm going to run in here, and then I have to move the fence and come back again, but I'll cut one and see what kind of a fit we got anyway. There's the dovetail pin. What we need it to do is we need that to fit down inside of here. Maybe I'll just rotate that over. I got a little sliver on that side. And we'll flip that inside there. And isn't that nice? That's nice when it fits, people, and it's only good when it does.
Our next step is to go ahead and do a combination joint on the panels. We have a groove on one piece, we have a rabbet on the other, and when we put the two together, they make a combination joint which makes it 90 degrees. Now, we need the pieces here to do that. I've already got the setup. The setup is a 3/8 bit, a 3/8 space, and a 3/8 fence. The height really doesn't matter, but I got the height set at 3/8 as well. So let's go ahead and set it up, start the first cut, which is going to be the groove in the pieces. And I'm going to bring the two pieces that require a groove. And they're real easy to look at. If you notice, I've got all four pieces over here. Let's take a quicker look at them. Two of them are narrower than the other two. So the first two, which need a dado in it, or the groove, are going to be the wider of the two. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a rabbet on this one, we're going to put a dado on this one, and put the two together. We need the space from here to match the space from here. That's why one is wider than the other. So let's start. We'll go ahead and put the groove in the two bigger pieces. And I get it plugged in, and let's cut it. Need a push stick here. There's the groove right there, all ready to go. Our next setup is to go ahead and do the rabbet, which is going to slide inside of this. So we'll take these two pieces here that we've got the groove in and set them aside right now. I'm going to take the one piece here, the sample piece I've got, which has got the groove in it as well. And we're going to use that as a setup piece. So we're going to slide it on here. I'm going to get a clamp here and clamp it down so it doesn't move. And we'll do this while we're all turned off and unplugged. Make sure we've got it clamped up properly, because this cutter is going to go up alongside the edge of it. Now, the tricky part. What we need to do is we need to put the rabbet so that the face side's out. So that means the face side goes to the fence. And now let's go ahead and cut the rabbets. All right, let's see how that fits. And there's our fit with our combination joint.
Now, the next operation is to cut the dado in the back of the drawer sides to receive the back. And it's going to be a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm chucking up a 1/2 inch spiral bit. And I think that I got a 1/2 inch. I'll have room to put my little bushing down in here and a ring nut on the back side. So we'll lock that up, spin it on. I'll let you have a look what I got. There's the 1/2 inch bit. Now, the material that I have in the sides, being that it's 1/2 inch thick, I only want that to go 1/4 deep. So I'll use my little brass insert again here, a setup bar, and that little block will set in here, and I can just tap that and get it exactly 1/2 inch deep or 1/4 inch deep. 1/2 inch material, you don't want to go right through it, so we'll go half the distance. And the reason for half, people, is that it's much easier to calculate your lengths too. You only have to take one thickness away. Now, having set that up like that, we also need a fence. And the fence that I've got here is a plain one. And we'll set it down, and we need 2 clamps, one on either end. We'll pop that into place. And I think from the back end of it, I'm going to use that brass setup bar, a 1/2 inch one, and I'll set it a 1/2 inch away from there. Now, we'll see what we got to do here. Now, of course, we're going to get to the stage where we need left and right hand pieces here, but not at this one. What we're going to do is just pick the face side. We can run them down and run it on the inside. Now, I may get a little tear out on the back side, but again, I've got them wide enough. Now, we got a lock in here. And there's the 1/2 inch slot. And that little dado in there will just receive the back end. Now, it's all 1/2 inch material. So what we've got to do is go through them. Remember, I got 4 drawers, so I got 8 pieces like this, 2 for each side to do. So we'll just run those. I'll set them over here. Then I'll talk to you about the bottom, how it goes in. we're going to run a groove down in the bottom in here. That'll receive the 1/4-inch plywood. So I need to change a cutter, and then I'm going to talk to you about how we locate those things. Take these clamps off, move the fence out, and I said we were using 1/4-inch plywood, but what I'm not going to use, I'm not going to use a straight 1/4-inch bit. I'm going to use a plunge round over 1/4-inch bit, and boy, do those things get tight in there. Just take those 2 wrenches, that makes it a lot easier, or else I'm getting weaker here. I hate to have them bits come loose, so I usually tighten them up. Now I'm going to move that. I want you to look at this cutter that I've got. That little sharp tip that goes down in here on that bit and plunges in is exactly 1/4, but it's got the radius on the plunge round over, so it puts a real clean cut on. The other thing about a long stem bit that you've got, if it's 1/4-inch, you get a lot of chatter in it, and a bit like that you won't get the chatter in it. So now we'll slip that into place, and about like that, and we'll tighten it up. And we'll run it down. And I get my insert. I have to take the insert out because it's holding the insert's the same as the bit, and we don't want to have that happen. And we'll move that around like that. I had that pine in there, and that stuff, it kind of makes a mess here, doesn't it? Now we get some 1/4-inch here. That bit again is going to be the same depth that we had. And the depth of that is just about like that. Just lift that up just a shade here. A little bit more right there. Now bring it back down, set it into place, and move the fence. So, how far away is the fence? Well, we're going to move that bottom up so it's 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. That becomes kind of a habit because most hardware, if you were using hardware, and we're not this time, will require that the bottom is 3/8 of an inch up on the side. So once we set up to that, we'll put it down and we'll tighten it in place. Now I mentioned about pairing these up so you got a right and a left hand. So we're going to start here, then you'll see what I mean in a second. That pine kind of fuzzes over here in the end, and I'm just going to take one out so we can see the piece a little clearer. Just touch it with a piece of sandpaper here. Now let's do it. I'll do one first, and then I'll match it up to it. Well, we're not going to do anything unless I plug it in. Now we got it. What's neat about that cutter that I used, it just took and rolled this top sharp edge off, made a real clean cut to it. Now, when we get that done, here's what I mean about making them pair. Those have got to be to the back end. So now this becomes the bottom. So I'm going to lay them in pairs as I cut them. Okay, we've got those things done. What about the fronts? Well, in this case, the drawer is flush top and bottom, so the fronts are the same. Other than, what we don't want to do is run right through. So what we're going to do here is start here, come in, and then come across. So we're going to come down on it. And you'll be able to tell when you get to the end, and we'll put that piece in it. Get my brush here, and we'll just take away those little chips. We don't want any underneath it. Now you can swing them in here, you can drop them down, whichever you feel comfortable with. Now what you can do there, you could put a piece of tape here and you know exactly where it is in it, but see, there's the groove to receive the bottom. That's the same as that is. So now when you put these two pieces together here, we'll just run these two together and let you have a look at it here. Get that to fit down in there. They got to be flush at the bottom. And there's what we end up with. Now, the back comes in and it just sits in here and then the bottom slides in last. So we're away, but we got one little operation yet to do. I'm going to leave those lay there for a second. I want to lower that bit down. And I talked about this when we started off here. We need to put a 1/8 by 1/8 little rabbet in the bottom of each drawer in it. And remember I said the bottom, so we'll have to pick our bottom side. So what I want to do is I got the bit now at 1/4 inch, so I'm going to set it down, just lower that bit down to 1/8. And that's not a fussy measurement because it's just a show thing to show that the drawer's got clearance all the way around. Now, I'm going to start the router up and swing the fence in because it's got no relief cut in it. So we'll just pull that back in here and we got the power in it. There we go. And put the clamp back on if we can get it there. And make sure you check the pieces that we need it in the bottom, not in the top. We need to run that rabbet in. Here's what's going to happen. Let's take a closer look at this. There's the groove in it, that little piece of poly in the way there. Now, that's riding right on the bottom, so that'll give the clearance. Like on our drawer, we got a clearance off the edge, we got it across the top and down the side, but we didn't have anything on the bottom. By putting this little step in here, a rabbet in it, it looks like it's got clearance like that all over and makes them look even.
Now it's time for tips from the workshop, viewer mail, and tricks of the trade on RotorBit's tips and wood chips.
Today's tip is using a roll pin jig to make the holes for the drawer fronts so the hardware fits perfect. Let's take a quick look at the jig we've got here. What we've done is we've gone ahead and drilled roll pin holes all around the outside so that it matches perfectly on your drawer fronts. On the top, we only have one roll pin. On the bottom, we have two. Another way you can determine that is just by marking the top. We'll slide that piece over top of it, drop it down on top. That gives us an exact position for drilling the holes. So let's go ahead and do that now. Now we'll take it apart and let's look at it. There we've got the holes perfectly aligned. Now let's take this hardware and take a look at it. It has to be exact because otherwise this little handle won't fit. Now let's just try and slide that into place and see how we got our hardware to fit. There we go. We've got our hardware fitting perfect and the handle will work great. All right, now we just need to finish off this assembly here. We'll lay in this dust panel in place. And you've got this drawer glide. Each one of these give us the exact distance away, right?
And then
slide those in. Of course, this is all dry assembled.
Yeah, better try it before you glue it.
All right, now let's see if that drawer...
Let's see if the top fits first.
Oh, you're gonna
Otherwise,
put the top
drawer
on
will
first?
be in trouble, won't we? There's the top. And now we got this drawer kind of taped together. I like your drawer pull.
Right.
And see if we can just sneak that in there.
Hey, your groove worked out perfect. Don't forget to drop us an email or a snail mail. And again, join us next time right here in the Router Workshop.
We'd like to hear from you. You can email us at the address on your screen. Send your comments, questions, or project ideas to the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 608, Chamberlain, South Dakota 57325. Or in Canada, the Router Workshop, Post Office Box 280, Ely, Manitoba, ROH-OHO. To learn more about the Router Workshop, visit us at the internet address on your screen. With the completion of the unique Queen Anne base and the lingerie case, our next step is to crown the piece with the jewelry case and mirror. Bob crafts a jig for mortising the top and bottom, while Rick cuts perfect combination joints and adds a decorative mold. That's on part 3 of the jewelry and lingerie chest. Next time, right here in the Router Workshop. Funding for The Router Workshop is provided in part by Hitachi Power Tools, manufacturers of a full range of construction and woodworking power tools. For $16.99 plus $4.99 shipping and handling, you can order Bob and Rick Rosenthal's The Router, a 130-page book which includes a plan to build the router table and bench, plus numerous tips, techniques, and educational information. Call 1-800-803-1449.